everybody, welcome to Poly Games. I'm your host Joseph, and today I want to talk about how people are missing the point of backwards compatibility. Ever since this Artechnica article came out, which I'll have a link to down below, it talks about how less than 2% of all Xbox users since February 2016 and February 2017, only less than 2% have actually used backwards compatibility. That was a sample group of 900,000 users. Now, Microsoft would like to say something in contrary of that. They say that over 50% of all users have tried backwards compatibility, but I'm not here to enter that debate. I'm not here to argue those points. Because the first thing when I think of backwards compatibility, I actually think of Nintendo. And please roll with me here. Not to slow jerk Nintendo by all means, but when I think about Nintendo, I think of, as long as they're not changing media from like cartridge to disc and back to cartridge, they're usually really awesome with backwards compatibility. The successor to the previous console is always having the previous console's lineup of games right behind it to support that console, which is awesome. 3DS still supports DS games. DS games still support advanced games. Advanced games still support Game Boy Color games. The Wii U still supports the Wii. The Wii still supports the GameCube. And because of all that, you still have games that are still being talked about and still being played in tournaments like Super Smash Bros. Melee. That game is over 10 years old. That game came out when I was in middle school and is still being played to this day. I walk into any retro game store, they're playing that there. It's crazy to me, that game's 10 years old, still being played. And then at the same time, Nintendo's like, you know what? Let's open our even bigger previous libraries, the NES, SNES, the N64, and now hopefully the GameCube library, to all these other games that people get to try out. So now Nintendo is making money on the original Mario game, on the original Zelda, Metroid, right? All these games that would have just been literally figuratively collecting dust. So now technically you have a library in the palm of your hands, whether you're holding your 3DS or your Wii U. You have something to play, whether you want to relive your childhood or see what games were like back then. As a person who wants to, restore gaming history, that is super important to see where we've come and how we've come so far and what we could still learn from those games. And that gets me thinking of, is backwards compatibility really that bad? No, it's really good. It's really pro-consumer because it's giving people the options to play games they would have never have played. And no matter if it's the majority of the population or 1.5% of the population, what's happening is people are going back, playing games, and then going, wow, that was good, let me buy that game. So when I think about Game Pass, I actually think of it more like the virtual console, but for third parties and Microsoft, where people could go out, try a game, and go, wow, I actually really like this. You know what, let me buy it. And they get to buy it off a discounted rate, and now companies are making money where they would have never made money on. That's why used games are still so prevalent, because people could buy them at a cheaper value, right? And they get to try them out for 7 days at GameStop and then just return them. And again, that's why Game Pass is so important. That's why what Microsoft is doing is ultimately a really good thing. Whether it is, throwing money away, technically, because not enough people are using it, it doesn't matter, because you're still opening this library of games that you would never have had. You're opening your ecosystem and broadening it out. That's awesome to me. Thinking of someone playing Red Dead Redemption for the first time ever, that's awesome. I love that idea, and I support that idea. Being able to stream it is even better. And again, we shouldn't demonize or make fun of Microsoft because of how many people are on their system. As long as the option is there, it's awesome for consumers. Lastly, I want to talk about Sony and the PlayStation 4, and ever since they didn't have backwards compatibility. A lot of Sony fanboys go, who needs it? Who cares about it? But I remember working at GameStop, everybody wanted that backwards compatible PlayStation 3, right? It meant something to them. Don't just attack the other side just because you don't have it. Instead, encourage those people, go on blog posts and state your opinion. Yeah, I would like to see backwards, PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 backwards compatibility. Hey, I understand why we can't do PS3 backwards compatibility now, but in the future that would be amazing. And then open up something like Game Pass, which you kind of already are doing for PlayStation 2 classics and PS Now. Get everybody on board with the fact of, you know what, playing old games is not the worst idea in the world. And now, especially since this, from the jump from Gen 7 to Gen 8 wasn't the graphical leap so many people were expecting, a lot of people would be willing to go back if you gave them that opportunity. And with that said, whether everybody goes back or some people or 1%, you're still making money on it. It's still giving the consumer freedom. And that's the main point that everybody's missing here. It's about being able to play a game you never would have had and maybe falling in love with a series you might have never played. I'm going to leave with this note. I would have never fell in love with Dead Space or even Splatoon if I didn't take that game out, rent it, at GameStop, and really fall in love with it. And, during that time, that's when the Wii U was kind of going out. It was going out of business. And this is the time the Dead Space 3 was being talked about being in development, and I played those games and I fell in love with them, and again, I'm hooked to those games. Those are some of my favorite franchises ever. I would love to see a Dead Space 4, right? So going back and playing games from a few years ago or even generations ago, it only helps. So with that said, and all that out of the way, if you like what you heard here, please hit like, share, subscribe. It helps me out. It helps grow this channel out. And backwards compatibility is awesome, whether I use it or not. I do want to say that. I don't want to make it like I was anti-backwards compatibility a few videos ago. It's just that I personally don't use it as much. So with that said, I want to know what your thoughts is on backwards compatibility. I want to know what your thoughts is on the Artechnica article. With that said, everybody, though, I'm going to waste your time any further. Everybody, have a great day. E3 is around the corner. Let's have fun. Everybody, keep your wits about you and have a nice one.